Welcome in, everybody. Good Saturday morning to you. You know, show me somebody who's retired successfully, and I'll show you somebody who understands the importance of timing when it comes to planning for retirement. They understand the importance of timing when you claim your Social Security benefits. They understand timing of when you withdraw money from your IRA, your 401k, and any other retirement accounts you may have. The timing of when you file for Medicare, the timing of taking income so you pay fewer and fewer taxes down the road, the timing of the stock market cycle when you actually retire, so on and so forth. We're going to talk about timing in retirement a bit, but I want to get into the market. We haven't talked market talk in some time. And by the way, hey, welcome back from Labor Day weekend. Boy, it's September. Can you believe it? September is one of my favorite months of the year, but it's also the most volatile month for the stocks. Most people think it's October, but really, it's September. Now, if you're out there and you've got at least half an eye open, you probably by now realize that these markets are completely propped up by central bank intervention. What do I mean by that? They're basically printing money, and buying bonds and stocks. In fact, did you know this? The Swiss National Bank owns more Apple stock than Apple. Yeah, it's true. Japan is buying every financial instrument in sight, and also in the EU, they have almost run out of German bonds to buy. Yeah, can you imagine that? So that leads me down another path. They're printing this money. They're increasing the debt. The spread between the high-yield bonds and U.S. government bonds has gotten so narrow, it's in danger territory. And what I mean by that is simply this. People are starved for yield, and they're throwing their money at every single risky thing they can throw it at. But let's talk about debt. You know, I've talked about the usdebtclock.org on this program many, many times. I remember when I first looked at it. It was about, when we first started this show back in 2007. Almost 10 years ago. Can you believe it? The national debt on the U.S. debt clock then stood at a little over $10 trillion. Today, it's $19.5 trillion. You know, this money, it's never going to get repaid. It can't be. There's no way it can get paid back. Not in our lifetime. Look, let me prove it to you. If you take that $19.5 trillion and divide it by every tax-paying citizen in this country, and that means your share of that's $163,071. Can you write a check to Uncle Sam for that? Now, let's look at this. The U.S. government, in terms of tax revenue per taxpayer, that means you and I paying taxes, it's $16,033 a year. That's it. So we got $16,000 of taxes to support a debt load of $163,000 per tax-paying citizen. See what I mean? It'll never, ever get paid back. Now let's take a look at the world debt situation. The world debt situation is $59.6 trillion. If you divide that by every person in the world, that's $80,541 per person. Now, what would you guess is the average income per person, annual income per person on a per capita basis worldwide? It's only $10,000 a year. Yet everybody owes $80,000. I don't know how this is going to end. I don't know when it's going to end. But end it will. And I'm afraid when it does end, it's going to be an absolute disaster, an absolute nightmare. All right, so let's get back into this thing about retirement. You have probably been working with the same stockbroker or financial advisor for years. Let's set friendship aside for a minute. When was the last time you formally reviewed your portfolio? Are they actively managing it? Do they even have an exit strategy for you? Are you having conversations about Social Security, taxes, health care, and Medicare? I had somebody call me the other day and said, "Oh, I want you to do a Social Security optimization report for me because my advisor, he just doesn't do Social Security." Come on. How do you call yourself a financial advisor, especially a retirement planner, which most of us do now, and not do Social Security? If you're not having these conversations, you're missing some critical pieces to the retirement puzzle. These things could make a profound difference on how far your money could go in retirement. I'll prove it to you with our 5-point retirement master plan. We just don't talk about stocks and bonds and mutual funds and annuities and life insurance and long-term care. We get into actionable strategies on how you could pay fewer taxes, how to wring every nickel out of your Social Security benefits, and how and when to withdraw money from your retirement accounts, plus inflation, healthcare, Medicare, and so much more. We talk about how to make every dollar break a sweat and go further in retirement. Your initial analysis is not going to cost you a penny. There's no obligation. You've got nothing to lose. I'd like to do this for all my listeners, but I can't. So for those of you, the 10 of you today who have set aside at least $100,000 for retirement, give us a call at 336-391-3409 and schedule an appointment to come in and get your 5-point retirement master plan done. That's 336-391-3409. All right, so timing your retirement, and that's critical. Think about it. What would have happened to you had you retired in 2000? Had you retired in the summer of 2007, and like most of you, your portfolios were fairly heavily weighted to equities? That's what we call the sequence of return risk, and I preach about that quite a bit. I try to open everyone's eyes to that possibility when they come and see me for the first time, because it's critical. If you retired in 2000 and went through that brutal market those first couple of years, and you lost, not half your portfolio, but 20% of your portfolio, most of you lost more than that, then that is going to have a huge impact on how you live out the rest of your retirement. So guarding against the sequence of return risk is so important. That's why I said a moment ago, does your advisor have an exit strategy? Have you talked to them about that? If not, you need to have that conversation. You need to have that conversation today. Well, let's talk about taxes and how to time taxes. Most of your wealth that I see, most people's wealth now is in a couple things. Their home and then their retirement assets, whether it be the 401k or IRAs or what have you. And I think obviously you realize that taking money out of your IRA and your 401k is a taxable event. And it can have an impact on how much taxes on your Social Security. I am surprised at how many people don't realize that you potentially have to pay tax on your Social Security. I get this call just about every day. Casey's been doing a great job with these commercials for us on Social Security, trying to educate folks out there about the benefit and how you can optimize it and so forth. But, it really rang, I think, a bell with folks when we started talking about taxation on Social Security. So let me just talk about that because it's an important piece of the timing puzzle in retirement. If you are a married couple and you make over $32,000 of income, then 50% of your Social Security benefit will be taxed at your tax rate, whatever that is, 10%, 15%, 25%, so on. If you make over $44,000 of income, then 85% of your Social Security benefit is going to be taxed. Now, there's ways around that. There's ways to strategically build your portfolio to avoid that. And we've talked about many of those ways on this program before. It's using a Roth IRA, because distributions out of a Roth IRA do not count towards the taxation of your Social Security. You know, we talk about strategies to convert your IRAs into Roth IRAs. And if you're interested in learning some of the strategies and techniques to do it as tax efficiently as possible, then sit down and have a chat with me. You know, when you convert over from your IRA to a Roth IRA, that's a taxable event. And a lot of people say, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to pay the tax now. I want to pay it later. Well, what if tax rates go up in the future? You know, right now, most people that come in and see me, I call you Mom and Pop USA, most of you are somewhere between a 15 and a 25% tax bracket, some even less than that. So if taxes could go up in the future, can't you consider your tax rate being on sale now and take advantage of it? I think that's one way to look at it. Take advantage of taxes now while they're cheap and on sale, and start converting some of your IRA to a Roth IRA. My friend Ed Slott says, go from being forever taxed to never taxed. And I love that idea, because tax-free income, I think, in the future is going to be a very rare commodity indeed. Well, we'll be right back with more of the Wealth Guardian Show right here on 94.5 WPTI, the Piedmont's News Talk and Sports Station. Welcome back into more Wealth Guardians Radio here on 94.5 WPTI. We've been talking about the timing of retirement and the functionality and what goes into that. We'll get back to that, but I want to make a big announcement. We are October 4th and 6th, by popular demand, having another Social Security workshop. It will be 6:30, October 4th and 6th at the Broyhill out in Clemens. And guess what? Back again by popular demand is my friend Hamilton Morales. We had such a good turnout the last time I had Hamilton, so I invited him back. You know, Hamilton, I describe him as my living, breathing, walking, talking encyclopedia of Social Security fact and fiction. Well, it's more fact than it is fiction. He truly knows the stuff inside and out. In fact, when I got my national certification, he was one of my instructors. So you'll get a chance to get the what do you call it, the lowdown, this inside skinny on Social Security from a true expert, Mr. Hamilton Morales. So put that down, October 4th and 6th. That's a Tuesday and a Thursday, 6:30 p.m. And we'll have more information about that coming out momentarily. A couple case studies that are interesting that just turned up. Going back to one of the programs that we use in our retirement planning, I've told you about this one before. It's a new indexed annuity that just came out just in the last year, and they've made enhancements on it since then from Athene Life Insurance Company. I have a client who back on April the 13th rolled over a portion of his 401k. Put $169,781 in it. That particular index annuity gave him a 10% bonus. And just since April, what do you call that, about 5 months right now, his account value has grown from $169,000 to $190,000. $190,189. So not bad, all in a perfectly safe vehicle that you cannot lose your money in. So if you want to know more about that, then give us a shout at the Wealth Guardians, 336-391-3409. Let's get back into timing, and let's talk about taxes and timing. We were touching a bit on that with when we came up to the break in the last segment. You know, taxation on Social Security is an important thing because a lot of it can be taxed, and it doesn't take a whole lot of income to get 85% of your Social Security taxed at your tax bracket. In fact, $44,000 for a married couple who file jointly is all it takes. And what is that? Well, it's called provisional income, and they start with your adjusted gross income. So what is adjusted gross income? Well, adjusted gross income is, hey, you know, if you're working a part-time job, that's income, that's counted. Distributions from your IRA, from your 401k, that is countable to adjusted gross. And believe it or not, interest on municipal bond portfolios is also a calculation. And also, and this is what really gets me, I don't know why they did this, but they actually throw in this calculation half of your Social Security benefit. So they're going to try to tax you on your Social Security, but at the same time, they're putting half of your Social Security benefit in the calculation to get you over that $32,000 and $44,000 thresholds. Boom, they got you. Well, let's talk about the Roth IRA because it currently, under current tax code, is immune from these kinds of confiscatory taxes. So we do a technique called a bracket bump technique. Now, what that means is we find out where your tax bracket is, and we look to see where your next tax bracket falls. And right now, many of you are probably unaware of the brackets. So let's look at them. The first bracket is zero income to $18,500. And again, this is for a married couple filing jointly. That's the 10% bracket. Then the next bracket is 15%. That starts at $18,500 and goes all the way up to $73,000. So if you're making, let's say, $50,000, you have $25,000 or so before you go into the next bracket, which is 25%. So that means you have capacity of $25,000 every year to convert into a Roth IRA. Again, that's at the 15% bracket. Think of it this way. Taxes are relatively low right now. I know you don't think so, but they are. Why not take advantage of that? You know, the highest marginal tax rate we got right now is 39%, 39.6, I think is what it is. It was as high as 94% in this country right after World War II. The highest marginal rate was 94%. Now, granted, not many people paid that kind of a tax because there was a lot more deductions back then, and it was on a fairly high income. It's interesting to note that Ronald Reagan, when he was an actor, he only worked about half the year because he got to the point where he says, I'm just going to make enough films that when I get to that high tax bracket, when I get over 50%, I'm done. I am not going to work and let the government take more than half of my money. I'm just not going to do it. And that generally meant that those Westerns, those cowboy movies that he filmed a lot of, only took him about 6 months to do it, and he was done. So there you go. Take a lesson from Ronald Reagan. Let's work on getting the timing of your taxes in retirement as low as possible, because believe it or not, that will steal an awful lot of your retirement benefits. All righty. We've been talking about today on the Wealth Guardian Show, timing of your retirement and how important that is in so many aspects of your retirement, not just the day you say, hey, boss, I'm retiring, but also when you claim benefits to Social Security and Medicare and when you start withdrawing funds from your retirement accounts. You know, maybe you have diligently saved and invested for retirement, and if so, I'm really glad to hear that. But if you ignore these timing issues with claiming your Social Security, your Medicare, taxes on withdrawing money from your retirement accounts, it's going to be a painful, expensive experience for you. In fact, it could wipe out many years of your hard work. Just because you are paying attention to some critical timing issues, if you don't pay attention to that, it could very severely impact retirement. Now, I want you to discover how you can make the most out of every dollar you have saved for retirement with our 5-point retirement master plan. This initial analysis that I give you is not going to cost you a penny. I do it for free to all my listeners. You got no obligation to me, and you've got nothing to lose, so why not? Now, again, on today's show, I'm going to open this opportunity up to the first 10 callers. The first 10 callers who've set aside at least $100,000 for retirement. That's 336-391-3409. 336-391-3409. Now, some people ask me, why is it you got to have $100,000? Won't I work with anybody that has less money than that? Of course I will. If I can help you, I will. But here's what I have discovered about this $100,000 threshold. It's not an arbitrary number. In order to do a Social Security optimization, in order to make that fit into your retirement plan, most people will have to lean on their retirement assets initially in retirement to bridge the income gap. Social Security optimization is about delaying taking your benefit. It's letting those delayed credits grow and accrue, and the cost of living adjustments also. So most people are going to need to have at least $100,000 in a retirement plan in order to bridge the gap to best optimize your Social Security benefit. So again, for the first 10 callers, it's free. No obligation, 336-391-3409. All right, I've got another interesting case study here. Now, this one's not for everybody. This one is typically going to be for the small business owner out there. Maybe you're a manufacturer's rep, maybe you own a plumbing company, maybe, you're an attorney or a CPA, doctor, lawyer, dentist even. If you have a 401k in your company, the owners typically are limited by how much money they can put in a plan, and that's usually about 50. If you're over 50 years of age, you can probably get about $59,000 in a plan. So here's a case study where I'm working with a gentleman he is a business owner. He is self-employed. He has no employees. He's a manufacturer's rep and makes about $625,000 in gross revenue. And he has a 401k that he's only able to put about $59,000 in. Well, by the time you take that off and you take some of his business write-offs, he still has about a $400,000 taxable income. Now, he would love to take some of that money and be able to put it aside into a tax-deferred vehicle, a retirement plan of some sort, because right now he's paying $107,000 in taxes. So we built him and are showing him presently what's called a defined benefit plan. You can put more money in a defined benefit plan. In fact, in this one, he could put up to $319,000, which brings his taxable income down to $134,000. Therefore, he's only paying tax on $25,000. Okay, he's paying tax on $25,000. So now he's put aside over $300,000 for his retirement. It's a complete write-off, and now that brings his taxable income down from $400,000 to $134,000. He's saving over $75,000 a year in taxes. Now, again, this works great for a small business owner, somebody who maybe is a sole proprietor, like I said before, dentists, doctors, attorneys, CPAs, manufacturers, rep, whatever. If you're in business for yourself and you'd like to sock away some more retirement funds, then give us a call at the Wealth Guardians at 336-391-3409. Well, folks, it's football season. Go out there and enjoy the games today. My Pirates are going to be welcoming in the the Wolfpack Nation in Greenville. So let's hope we come away with a big win over North Carolina State. Until next week, this is the Wealth Guardian Show here on 94.5 WPTI.